Hey guys, it's Sasha. Monzo have just published their annual report and they are in real serious trouble. Monzo is a popular challenger bank in the UK that has grown incredibly fast in recent years, but financially things are really not looking good. As I'm recording this video, I haven't seen anybody else report on this and I don't think Monzo have made any public announcements. I am on a press distribution list. However, I looked up Monzo annual report on Google and went to their website and just changed 2020 to 2021 and hey presto, it was all there. I am guessing this will be announced pretty soon. I am showing you the numbers in this report, but first, let's look at their public statements. These are important. According to the website, everything has been great. Look, their website says that the growth has been phenomenal, in their words. They have over 5 million customers, which is awesome, and the deposits have increased by more than a factor of 2. There's a load of other stats if you scroll down, the number of pots created and spend on cards, etc., but there's no mention of whether the bank is making a profit. Interesting. Luckily, at the bottom, there is a little button to download the actual report. So here is what it says in the report. I read through the whole thing. It is pretty long. So there's a load of mumbo jumbo in it. Feel free to go and look at it if you want to yourself, but I'm going to jump straight to the most critical parts. First, let's look at Monzo's P&L. Monzo made £62.2 million in operating income in the last financial year to February 2021, and they spent £192.2 million on costs, which means the bank lost £130 million. That is huge. Their loss is more than twice the total revenue. Their costs are more than 3 times their revenue. This is really not particularly good. The revenues have actually increased from last year, so that is good. And I'm going to cover that in just a second because it's not as good as it might seem. But so have the costs. The costs have also gone up. The costs, in fact, have gone up by over £40 million, by more than the revenues have. The company is spending money like no tomorrow, and the losses are really beginning to add up. And here's a really important bit. Look at their interest income line. They've actually made less in interest income in the last financial year than they did in the previous one in 2020. That is really, really bad because this is where their money should be coming from. In fact, their total income across the whole business of £62.2 million is only about £12 per customer. That's income, not profit. That is incredibly low. And lending is how financial companies such as banks make their money. And unfortunately, it looks like Monzo haven't figured out how to actually do lending profitably because in the last year, their revenue from lending has actually dropped. So they are not doing as much, and certainly the performance is not there. Now, they have a few months ago changed their loans to look more like the typical high street bank in terms of structure and pricing. And I am sure that there's been a lot of pausing of people's loans during the past year, etc. But still, despite all this, it is not looking good. But they are pricing loans under £7,000 at 22.2% APR and loans over £7,000 at 7.2%. Those are pretty expensive terms, and I'm not convinced that this will be the solution that helps them turn a profit. In fact, their own auditors are really not convinced. Last year, the auditors raised some concerns that I covered at the time. This year, it is much, much worse. Let me tell you how much worse it is. Here is what the Monzo directors themselves say about their views on this on page 99 of the report. I'm going to quote, "Our directors have assessed our ability to continue as a going concern and are satisfied that we have the resources to continue for the foreseeable future. But there is a risk we won't be able to execute our business plan, which could impact our ability to generate a profit or raise enough capital to meet future regulatory capital requirements. Because of these obstacles, the directors recognize there continue to be material uncertainties which may challenge our ability to continue as a going concern. But the directors do remain confident in our ability to achieve our business plan and raise capital if necessary. For those reasons, we've continued to prepare the financial statements on a going concern basis. See the directors' report for more detail." So the directors legally have to disclose that they think there are issues. They are playing it down though. They are saying that there are material uncertainties which may challenge Monzo's ability to continue to operate, but they reckon that they can continue raising money from investors to fund the business, so it's not that big a deal. And they have done very well with funding, for sure. They have been raising huge amounts of money in recent funding rounds, and recently Revolut had a huge funding round, so there's plenty of money flowing into fintech. Anyway, let's look at what the auditors had to say. because their report is in here as well. By the way, those auditors got paid £2.4 million for doing the audit. It's in the report. That's 4% of the total annual revenue for Monzo. That's pretty expensive, right? Anyway, so here's what the auditors say on page 77. We draw attention to the basis of preparation in note 1 in the financial statements, which indicates that the ability of the group to continue as a going concern is subject to material uncertainty. I'm quoting here. The group is expected to continue to be loss-making over 12 months from the date of the issuance of the financial statements and will not be able to meet its regulatory capital requirements without raising additional capital as undertaken in prior years. This is critical. They have to raise funds just to be able to operate and meet their basic financial requirements. Let's continue reading. As stated in note 1, these conditions indicate that a material uncertainty exists that may cast significant doubt on the group's ability to continue as a going concern for a period of 12 months from when the financial statements are authorized for issue. Our opinion is not modified in respect to this matter. So the auditors are saying that they think there is a material uncertainty which may cast significant doubt on the group's ability to continue as a going concern for a period of 12 months. The auditors are saying that they think there is a significant risk that Monzo will fail. Not just fail at any moment, but in the next 12 months. In Monzo's own annual report, the auditors actually said the exact same thing last year. And that's what I think the media are going to pick up on. They're saying nothing's changed. But there are two really crucial differences, which I noticed, which I think the others might not. Last year's report did not have the 12 months included in this statement. The auditor said that they have concerns, and the wording was the same except for that bit at the end about the 12 months. It did not state a time frame. This year, they have said that their concerns are for the next year. This is extremely serious. And the second point is that last year the statement was made and that was that. Then they moved on to the other parts of the auditor's statement. This year, the auditors then spent a whole page after this statement explaining why they chose to agree with the directors that the business is a going concern. There's a load of stuff in here which basically sounds like the auditors are just trying to protect themselves if Monzo does go insolvent. They're saying, we think there's a huge risk, but we do agree with the directors that the business is still viable. By agreeing that the business is a going concern, they are saying that they still think it is solvent. But then they have a whole page of reasons why based on what the directors have told them. And at the end of all that, they then say, our responsibilities and the responsibilities of the directors with respect to going concern are described in the relevant sections of this report. However, because not all future events conditions can be predicted, this statement is not a guarantee as to the group's ability to continue as a going concern. So basically they are saying, okay, we'll say you're solvent just because you're paying us a load of money and because we agree with you, nothing to do with the money, but don't come blaming us if it turns out that Monzo is actually not solvent. We've put it all down on paper here, not our fault. It's difficult to see where Monzo can actually make a profit though, looking at the numbers. Their lending business is clearly not working. It's not been working for a few years now, and there are issues based on the numbers with their ability to actually make proper profit from that. They're putting on a brave face and they're saying that their bank accounts, the paid bank accounts, are doing really well. That's where they're going to be making a lot of money. And on the website, if you look on the big HTML thing, they say that their annual run rate on revenue grew to £105 million by December 2020. So they're saying that, the revenue is growing and eventually is going to be all good and dandy. But here are the questions that I don't see an answer to here. The run rate of £105 million is still 100 million short of just breaking even for the business. So that even if that was the run rate for the whole year, that would still be an extremely poor result. And given the annual report runs to the end of February, why did they choose specifically to exclude January and February on that graph? Why does it cut off in December, given this is an annual report that runs to the end of February and it is published only in July? What stopped them from being able to publish those two last numbers? Why does it happen that Monzo don't want to show what happened in January and February for those numbers? The graph also doesn't have any scale. It's impossible to tell whether it's even real numbers or just a graphic. Again, very, very odd to include it and show it like that because it kind of sounds like they don't want to be telling you what is actually happening in that graph. And if we look on page 102 of the report, out of the 42 £22 million in revenue that came from fees and commission, which is the big growth story in this report. Out of that, only 11.4 million came from banking services income, the paid products, I presume, because 40 million came from interchange, which is the fees paid by customers using their cards in shops, and the rest came from partnerships, basically selling customers third-party products by other people and getting paid a commission for it. But look, the cost of the banking services is £9.3 million. So all of these paid products that they make such a big deal out of only made £2 million for them last year before the operational cost. That's just in essentially gross profit. That's about 1% of the total cost of operating the bank. 1%. On their front page, they're proudly displaying that 25% of the revenue is from these new products. That's all dandy, that all sounds good, but unfortunately revenue and profit are entirely different things. And the numbers are showing a much more bleak story. So the only thing that is really growing for Monzo at the moment is interchange. Customers using their cards in shops, and a small fraction of those transactions going to Monzo as a fee. And at the moment, interchange is earning them £37 million a year in gross profit before taking into account the rest of the bank operating costs. But that's with over 5 million customers already. So how much further can it realistically grow? And presumably, if more customers join and existing customers maybe even spend more, the operating cost, the cost of running the business, will also increase. But Monzo have to increase that interchange by 350% just to break even. And that's quite unlikely to happen anytime soon. Certainly the interchange is not growing at that sort of rate over the last 12 months, and the likelihood is it's going to take them years before it reaches those sort of levels if everything goes well. So the likelihood is that Monzo will go and collect more funding soon. They're going to have to raise more funds in order to make it through. It looks like there is plenty of investor money floating around. The question is whether those investors want to continue investing in the bank that is showing no signs of trying to make any money. And given Monzo have already had a huge number of funding rounds, how much equity is there to go around and to spread, and how much do existing shareholders want to dilute to go and raise funds? Some people think that Monzo might do an IPO. There's been a few articles about it recently, but that has trouble written all over it. Imagine a company going public when their own auditors are saying that there is a significant risk that that company might fail in the next 12 months. We'll have to see what happens, but it certainly is not looking good for Monzo. They need to figure out how to make revenue, and lending is the most likely way out for them. That's how most financial services companies make money. That's how banks make money, but they don't seem to actually know how to grow that side of the business. They're certainly not showing it over the last couple of years. I really, really sincerely hope that Monzo do figure it out. We need new thinking. We need new challenger banks like Monzo to disrupt the high street banks. They are doing really good stuff on the marketing front. They're doing really good stuff on some of the product side of things. But disruption has to be commercially viable. And at the moment, Monzo just does not look at all commercially viable.